Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's day 2 of my vacation reviews. It's going to be a little bit different today. I'm probably going to be wandering around more of Toronto, given that, again, the New York trip kind of went up in flames. But today's a little bit different because I'm actually going to a house party. I'm not going to be guaranteeing that I'm going to be filming anything at the house party. That'd just be kind of weird. Not sure my friends really want to get involved with YouTube, kind of get why. But beyond that, I'm going to be shooting reviews en route, probably not there, but maybe after there. We'll see how things go, but it's going to be pretty much all pop records today. So if you got no interest in that, you can clear out now. But let's start off with something in which I have been getting a fair number of requests, and actually I've been trying to defend for a long time.
Someone's right for me, waiting to feel all my love and make you with me. I'll never give up, even if it breaks me. Feels in my heart, we'll meet one another. You'll be my baby, I'll be your mother.
Okay, so first major observation, it's hot as balls out here, so hopefully I might be able to film some of these indoors. That would be a lot better here. But you know what? Let's talk a little bit about Jessie J. I've always kind of liked her. I like her vocal timbre. I think she has charisma, albeit without not a lot of personality. I think her big issue has always been production and a clear focus of identity. If she actually had a clear idea where she wanted to take her music, I think she'd be a lot better remembered, or she would at least have more personality overall. So that's when she took a couple years off. She decided to work with a single producer. I had a lot of hopes for this. And overall, I think this turned out pretty well. Like in terms of 4 collected EPs brought together, really doubling down on a late 90s, mid 2000s R&B sound. It's got some decent texture to it. Granted, the moments she tries to turn up with the air horns don't work, but really, this is more of a low-key project. It's more emphasizing Jessie J's subtlety and some decent performances as a writer with a little bit more nuance in her songwriting. And yet I'm not crazy about it. I wanted to be, folks. I really did. I wanted to give this review the same sort of thing I did for, let's say, I don't know, Christina Aguilera, which I thought she took a lot of real chances there. I thought there was a lot that I really liked and respected. But the thing is that it's just not catchy at all. I wish that I could double down and say, yes, this is a really subtle, really interesting album, but if the melodic hooks just aren't there, and if Jessie J is not at this point of her career taking the chances in order to elevate this material, I don't know what I can really say to really back it up. I mean, again, it's not bad. It's got some subtle, decent cuts. I think it's, as a whole, a very good record, but I would struggle to call it great or even all that memorable, which is one reason I put it on the trailing edge in the first place. I just did not have a lot to say about it. I don't know, I don't think it's bad, again, but I wanted those standout moments in the same way that I got from Christina Aguilera, which is a lot more uneven, to be sure, but I didn't get it. So as such, yeah, I don't know, 6 out of 10. I wish I had more fun with it. I wish it was more emotionally effective. It kind of gets there at spots, but not all the way. But now on to something a little bit more lighthearted.
High when I met you, out of my mind when I decided to love you. Now I'm just trying to forget you. I must have been.
So yeah, new day, a little bit more time to talk. Yeah, I changed my shirt because I quite literally sweat through my other one, and yes, it very much is a new day. Don't judge me. Beyond that, I've always been a fan of Chromeo. They're the sort of act that I think has always had a lot of loose groove to them. They've always been pretty funny. They haven't been overloaded with charisma. I get the feeling that Bruno Mars came in and did a lot of their same sound a lot better. But at the same time, they've always had that good groove. They've always had that taste for mid-80s funk that I really like. And I was a little bit surprised to see this record not quite getting the same acclaim that they got off their 2014 release. And honestly, I kind of see why they're not getting it. They've doubled down a lot more of the 70s and 80s funk grooves. They pulled in more collaborators than ever before. A lot of critics are making the Daft Punk comparison. I'm not sure that's all the way there, but okay. But the thing is, Chromeo's always been a bit of a silly group. They've always had their taste for the off-kilter and weird, and I respect that out of that band. And I like to say this record kind of moves a little further in there, at least in the more of the tribute act to those acts in the late 70s or the mid 80s, in that funkier vibe, because there are some really good grooves here. You can dance to this album. The problem is that, well, we are 4 albums in from Chromeo. Their sound hasn't really evolved, and their lyrics have never evolved. They've always been a bit of a parody act, and I don't mean that to dismiss them, because you'd like to think that 4 records in, their content would get a little bit more rich. They do something more beyond the one joke they keep on hammering, and a joke that frankly Bruno Mars has kind of been telling better, especially coming off of 24 Karat Magic. They try to switch it up a little bit here, bring in more elements of class, but again, it's a weird vibe for them, and you can tell they're a little bit out of their depth in that vein. But I think the bigger problem is that, despite all the guest stars they bring in, they're just not all that catchy. They don't have a lot of the same chemistry. The synthesizers are not as prominent. That melodic tendency that I've liked about Chromeo, that makes their music good, does not really elevate them to greatness. I don't know, this quasi-ironic funk vibe they've got going has paid the dividends before, and again, it pays the dividends here. This is a good release, but the fact that we're not seeing evolution this far in means I'm gonna have to give this a very strong 6 out of 10. I can't really say it's better as much as I might want to. And on that topic,
Kiss me, we're on fire, babe. Love me, take me to outer space.
so I had to come inside. It started actually raining outside. Looks like the humidity's finally breaking in Toronto, thank God. But Alina Baraz, this has been on my schedule for months, and honestly I figured I'd knock it out now. It looks like the sort of pop record to which I wouldn't have a lot to say, and that's very true. It very much feels like a mainstream contemporary pop album, and that it has some cues pulled from Jhené Aiko, which is probably the most agreeable parts of it. Some elements of acoustic instrumentation coming up, a little bit of that trap percussion, a little bit more of that smoky vibe. Hell, they got Khalid on for 2 songs, and he does have good chemistry with Alina Baraz, but I gotta be honest, there's just so little I can really say about a project like this. Yeah, she had some previous more electronic experimentation that kind of put her in a slightly different lane. Almost reminded me a little bit of Halsey, just a little bit less accessible. And yeah, it's kind of slinky, it's kind of enjoyable, but it's not doing anything all that interesting lyrically. It's not all that compelling overall. I wish I could say I liked it more, but again, not really a lot to say about this. I think it's just kind of okay, but I've heard so many pop artists in this lane do this sound that if you're not going to do anything interesting or different with it, or say anything new in your lyrics, or bring an altogether expressive vocal delivery, I'm not going to get behind it. So very light 6 out of 10.
I'm a Ferrari. After the party's done, I keep on going, missing the moments. Living in the fast lanes, getting kinda lonely. Yeah.
So yeah, the sun actually came back out, but honestly the humidity is just ungodly, so I'll finish the last review inside my apartment. And you know what? Say what you will about Alina Baraz, but there was a sensuality to her material, and she at least managed to get through an album in like 9 songs. It's pretty short, it's pretty abbreviated. She doesn't have a lot of content, but it works for her. I really cannot say the same thing about Bebe Rexha, and there's no way to walk away from this review without feeling kind of crappy, because Bebe Rexha's been trying for at least 3 or 4 years. It's somewhat adjacent to the mainstream. She finally got her big breakthrough with Meant to Be with Florida Georgia Line, and I guess that was the push for her label to finally put out this full-length debut album. She's been putting out EPs that have had singles that have had some crossover, and spoilers, there's a couple songs from those EPs that show up on this project, like I Got You, and there's no way around it, guys. This isn't any good. I kind of struggle as to pinpoint the exact cause why. Bebe Rexha herself, she's got talent in terms of she has a lot of presence, but I always struggle to say that if she has a lot of personality, because coming off this album, I don't think she has much at all. I don't think she's got that star power, that star presence behind the microphone that really entices me to come back. A big part of this is the writing. She doubles down on what I'd like to say a blend of Halsey and Lana Del Rey in terms of this brand of overdone melodrama that plays to a very basic LA white girl aesthetic. And it's so cliche, it's so overwrought. A lot of it plays into bad relationship melodrama that really is not the slightest bit compelling. And you know what? that can work if it's right in the right atmosphere, if the hooks are strong, if the production can give her the support she needs, or there's some sort of slinky sensuality, or at the very least the record is abbreviated enough so it doesn't wear on my patience. And this is where Bebe Rexha's expectations really falls apart, because the production's a mess. She tries to double down on this acoustic, somewhat electric guitar background that's often smothered in reverb and placed midway to the back of the mix behind the overgated drums and a lot of the fake trap percussion. But what gets really annoying about all of it is how badly it all's mixed together. She has points where the guitars are just swamped out, or there's a little bit too much reverb over everything. She ends the album on multiple piano ballads that really are not that strong, and really, the amount of slapdash problems in the mixing and balancing, and to say how often her voice will peak in the mix, it makes me wonder what sort of production budget there even was with this record, or if they just wanted to capitalize on Meant to Be as quickly as they could. And if your only exposure to Bebe Rexha is Meant to Be, yeah, this doesn't help you in that whole regard. And I could go on about the problems about this project, how Quavo utterly phones in his guest verse, and how Tory Lanez just flat out embarrasses himself. But the truth is that I think this is the record that they kinda had to make for Bebe Rexha, just because they've been trying to establish her and break her for so long. A middling, really kind of mediocre pop record was really all they could really put out. And you know what, there are some moments that kinda have a decent turn of phrase, but I can't support this, guys. I really can't. It's a strong 4 out of 10. It's easily one of the worst pop records I've heard thus far this year. It's just not good. And it should be better, considering how long they've tried to break her in. And I would put money that if she does not have a follow-up single, she gets dropped from the label. At least with Tinashe, for as much as people rip on her, Tinashe's got personality, and she's been consistently showing some drive to improve. Bebe Rexha, just not happening. Sorry. But yeah, until next time, I'm hoping to maybe get out one more vacation set of reviews before I have to go back to work and Billboard Breakdown and things return in earnest. And a couple other records in which I don't really have a lot to say about. Probably be a little more scattered next time, but till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.